click, going live. Maybe it says we're live.
All right.
May it be. Let's pretend like we are. Everyone, thank you for putting up with that. I hope you really enjoyed watching behind the scenes, how things are made. And don't worry, nothing that you saw implicates anything to do with the robustness, the stability of the lovely framework called Redwood. So we just need more CI/CD on our live streaming, Amy. My name's
we are live. We are
we
live.
are.
I have it
Yeah,
pulled
we're
up
live
on YouTube. Yeah.
I think we are. My name is David Price, one of the co-founders with Redwood JS. We are going to talk about Redwood JS. It is not a tree per se, although it is a tree, but it's more of an analogy for your favorite, if it's not yet, it will soon be, full stack application framework, JavaScript, TypeScript. Amy, who are you?
My name is Amy Dutton, and I am a lead maintainer on the core team for Redwood JS.
That was great. That was really succinct. I like that. Well, let's here's what we're about to do now that we're officially going. We're going to have several presentations. This is a monthly event that we do, and the goal is really to update the community. And those of you new to the community, welcome, but update everyone on what's been happening. So we'll cover releases. We have a lot of announcements that happened over the last 2 months, so we want to give updates on. We'll do a few presentations, highlight some things about Redwood we want you to know. And that's about 30 minutes, so half past the hour. We stop the live stream, presentations are done. And then if you want to stick around, we will have breakout groups with members of the core team. We love the relational aspect of working in collaboration with a large community. That's what open source is all about. And it turns out if you want to collaborate, it helps to know who you're collaborating with. So we'll explain how that works. That is purely optional. You'll need audio. You don't have to go to video for that, but we invite you to stay. For now, please interact with the chat. We'll be looking for questions there as we go. And I think if I can work on the permissions here, I'm going to invite that Tom Preston Warner gentleman to come up. Tom, you should have audio now, and you should be able to start your video. And look at that. It worked.
Hello.
Worked great. Tom, this is where you get to introduce yourself and tell us what's happening in Redwood. We could use a Redwood update. It's been a while.
All right. I'm Tom Preston Warner, co-creator of Redwood JS. It's been now several years since we started the project, and let's talk about what's happening now. So the biggest news since the last time we did one of these is that we've started talking about the next epoch of Redwood JS, which is going to be called Bighorn. The current epoch, the first epoch, is Arapahoe. The next one is Bighorn. And the highlight of the Bighorn epoch will be support for React server components and streaming React. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing right now, is to support those technologies. We have a lot of the work on streaming already done. This is work that's been done by a bunch of people on the team, but main participation by Danny and Toby from the core team. They've been working really hard on making sure the streaming technology works, and then starting to experiment with getting React server components up and running, which is a fairly large task to implement the React server components. It's some complex technology, and to get it working properly is going to be a fairly large lift on our side. But we're excited to do it. We're really excited about what that's going to make possible. One of the things that it will make possible is the ability to use Redwood without needing to use GraphQL. So we imagine this as bringing sort of a transparent API to make that available to you in case you want to use that while you're prototyping, make it really easy to get started. And then you can just reach from your React server components, your server side components, reach directly into your Prisma database, make your queries, get your data back out, and then that'll be sent down to the browser. That'll all happen server side. And that'll make it really easy to get started. And that's something that we're trying to do, is to open Redwood to a broader audience, and for people that are more likely to want something like that for early prototyping. And so this is something that React Server Components makes possible. We want to do that as well. So you can imagine a future of Redwood where your database folder now sits beside your web folder, and you might not even have an API folder until you want one, until you need a GraphQL API, at which point you can say, I would like a GraphQL API now. And now you have access to all of the amazing tools that we've built around GraphQL and have probably the easiest time that you've ever had building a GraphQL API in Redwood that can sit now alongside your web app that is maybe reaching directly into the database. So all of that becomes very fast in the beginning, but still gives you that tremendous power of GraphQL in the long run when you want to opt into it, when you start having maybe a mobile client or some other clients that you want to serve with GraphQL where that makes sense. But at that point, you've opted into it, you know what you're doing, and you're getting the advantages now of both of these things. So that's what React Server Components unlocks for us. And it's been really fun thinking about how to transition Redwood to do that while still maintaining backwards compatibility as much as possible. And we're really hoping to not change too much of how it works. If you're using the current GraphQL setup for your communication from your front end to your back end, we're hoping that really that doesn't change at all. You're still using cells to fetch GraphQL. That whole setup should remain working with very little modification. That whole concept will still work. We're just adding new concepts, a new kind of a cell, a server side kind of a cell. We're not sure exactly how that's going to look yet, but we're thinking hard about how to make the ergonomics of that really, really awesome and easy to use so that you can start with Redwood in your prototyping phase and then grow it into your company as you get more mature. So that's the big news about the Bighorn epoch. Super exciting. Along with that come a lot of other things that we're working on at the same time. And you can see those in the roadmap that we now have published. If you go to redwoodjs.com/roadmap, then you can see the roadmap. It's a Notion document where we're keeping track of the various projects that we're working on and what phase they're in. So you can have a better sense of what's coming down the road in the Redwood universe. We finally put it together. You're welcome. People have been asking for a more solid roadmap for a long time. We heard you, and now you have one. So you can't complain anymore. Not allowed. We should probably make sure that that's on the website somewhere at some point so people can actually find it.
It's buried in the footer.
Yeah. Okay. See,
Yeah,
it's on the website.
It's always been there. It just didn't necessarily go anywhere useful. So now actually, if they want to complain about the roadmap, now you complain about what's not on the roadmap. So, hey, look, it's like we evolved the conversation.
Yeah, now we can argue about what should be on the roadmap. But there's things on there, really cool things like the Redwood Studio, which is going to help you figure out how your app is performing. A lot of performance, open telemetry kind of comes along with that as tooling that's just there for you and that you can leverage to be able to see that and then build your own instrument, your own code or things that you want to in open telemetry and feed that into an observability platform. Real-time GraphQL things that DT has been working on are super cool. Pluggable CLIs so that more customization is possible. All of the suspense, there's all the SSR suspense stuff is on this roadmap. You can see where that stuff is at. There's a lot of really neat stuff happening. So you can be excited about all those things. That's the roadmap. Check it out. Tell us what's missing. Tell us what you need. And then the last thing that I will update you on is the first ever Redwood.js conference in-person event is happening in September, end of September 26th through 29th. In Southern Oregon, United States. So it's going to be 2 days of talks, and then there will be a workshop on the front end and sort of a day of fun on the back end where we can go mountain biking or see sites in Oregon. It's going to be awesome. It's not a huge venue, so we wanted to start with a more intimate setting. So I think it's 100 and some people, 150 people are going to be there. So tickets are available now. We're about to put up, I think, some of the speakers that are going to be on there. We put that together. So you'll soon be able to see who the speakers are going to be. We're going to have some amazing people speaking. Most of the core team, a bunch of the core team is going to be there. Other Redwood users, startups using Redwood. And there's some really great events that are going to go along with it, and amazing food and a stunning location. And if you've never seen redwoods before, there are redwoods. There are redwoods around. So you can see a redwood while you're at Redwood JS Conf. So check that out. That's at redwoodjsconf.com. and sign up early. You'll save some money. And I hope to see you there.
I hope to see people there too. We're really looking forward to it. In lieu of having that content on the website right now, which is happening real time, we'll have that up soon. So what you can expect from the workshops, it's not on the website yet, but Prisma is confirmed, and they'll be doing so at least one, if not two, DevRels from Prisma will be doing more of an advanced Prisma, and of course in the context of Redwood. So that'll be one of the workshops. Have a couple other, so we have well over 20 integration partners that we work with, and all of our auth and deploy providers, and across the board. So those are the people that we've been talking to about doing talks, helping with workshops. So all of that is just settling and getting confirmed right now, but there'll be another, Redwood specific technology that'll be happening for the second workshop. There's also a founders workshop that's going to be happening. I think we have a couple startup spots left for that. And what that will be is an all-day workshop with myself and Tom, a few other members of the core team, and then up to 5 startups and founders, up to 2 startups, founders from each of those startups. And we're going to do a deep dive on your startup, mostly focused on the technology side. And it'll be a space for questions, conversations, best practices, but really excited about that too. So this will be an event for devs, of course, the Redwood community, for startup founders, and then all of the presentation content for the next 2 days will be, you're going to hear from founders using Redwood, kind of taking Redwood to the edge. You're going to hear about React Server components. Tom, of course, will be kicking it off with a lot of updates on where we're at on the roadmap at that time. And there's some really cool speakers coming. We're excited to get all that up. So it's going to be great. We wanted, Tom, you could say more about this because I didn't get to participate, but the early days of Rails and those insider conferences, kind of that like, man, I remember when got to be there, and it was the people using the technology and the tools. That's really what we've tried to curate and create a context for here. That was a very terrible segue into letting you talk, but I should have formed that in the phrase of a question. Are you muted? Oh, you can't unmute yourself. Only I can unmute you.
You have too much power.
I do.
The ultimate power, the power to silence people. Yes, the early days of Ruby and Rails were just some of the best times that I've had in those conferences, where there was only a couple hundred people there, and you really got to know people and hang out and hack on code. And it felt like everything was possible. We were at the beginning of sort of this big change in how websites were being made. And those are people that I still know, people that went on to become very successful because they were in on this sort of leading edge of technology. And so if you haven't been to a conference of that kind, this is going to be like that. It's going to be a small enough number of people that you can really get to know people. And that is something so valuable that you don't see a lot anymore. And so we're trying to bring back that magic of some of these early Ruby Rails comps to the Redwood experience.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Beautiful, beautiful place in Oregon too. And September's a beautiful month to be in Oregon. So more details on logistics there. It's a flight into Medford. If you want to ask questions, ask them in the chat. We'll be looking for that, and also stick around for the breakout groups because we could talk more about it then. So thanks, Tom. Man, I'm stoked about our Redwood roadmap. It's going to be good. It is good. It's lots coming. All right, Dom. I am unmuting you, and in about 2 seconds, you can now come on stage. Dom Sadie, joining us to give us some Redwood release updates. Dom, what's been happening in the world of Redwood releases?
Yeah, we've gotten a bunch. I think this V5 major has been like the most releases in a major, like between minors and patches. Just like we've had a ton. We're on 5.4.2 and there's been many patches between, so feels like we've been shipping a lot. And I do have the V6 RC to finally show to everyone, so that's live. Upgrade guides available, but yeah, I'm happy to share screen and go into more details.
Oh yeah, I need to let you share your screen. Hang on.
Yeah, don't worry.
See, I have too much power here, and then I forget that I have the power. You can share your screen now.
I can indeed. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So the last, or is that working? Okay.
Oh, it went away.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Let me
Okay, do
try
it again.
again.
Do it
you have
again.
to enable it again. It looks okay. Here we go. So everybody seeing GitHub release notes. Then so first one I'll talk about real quick is the last minor we released, 5.4.0. This had a lot of good stuff in it. One of the things that I don't like, we have always a bunch of doc changes at the end between like typos, fixes, like quality of life things, but this one features an all new dbauth doc by Rob Cameron, who wrote dbauth, and this one goes into OAuth, which is something we've had a lot of requests for, like how do you integrate dbauth with OAuth, like for third-party logins. So if you were ever interested in that, there's now this great how-to on how to do it. Definitely check that out and go through it. It's a step-by-step, everything you need. And this is with GitHub. So documentation are also features. I just wanted to highlight that. So some other things in here that are really cool. This one, so TypeScript support for alias paths. It's kind of a using too many words there, but in a nutshell, it means like if you're a familiar TypeScript user, you might be used to doing this, which is like giving an alias to one of the specifiers so that you don't have to do this, which is like, going into my components folder and the modules in the admin and the common, and then finally UI is where you keep all your components and you can import it. You're probably used to like adding just a little alias for it. But the issue before was that this is a TypeScript thing, and the projects in the framework aren't built with TypeScript, they're built with Babel. So those are the kind of details we don't want you guys to have to worry about. So we had a contributor just make it work. Like the Babel will now go and read these TypeScript settings and make the same kind of magic happen, just like using Babel, and you'll get the typing and it'll still work when you build. So if you ever wanted this to work, you can do it now in v5.4. Docs are there too. These are what I was showing. And then last thing, there's a couple more really cool things here, but I want to highlight this one. So pre-render, it would always, pre-render had cell rendering capabilities in that you would get your cells queried at the time of build so that you could have the data there and populate like the HTML pages. But once you actually served those pages, you'd only see it for the static HTML, and then the Apollo client, once it actually instantiated, had to actually go and fetch that same data that you just saw. So it felt like a bit of a miss that like there's a step here, like I just saw the same data, like why do I have to go fetch it again? So Chris Colson just pre-populated the Apollo client cache so that the same data you see in your pre-rendered files is already available on the web, like on the window object, and Apollo can just like hydrate it instantly. So this was like another great quality of life fix that just felt like something like we had all the pieces in place, and this makes it feel really complete. It also, if any of you are familiar with React 18 hydration error warnings in the console, they will now never be there, not even for cells. So another thing to look forward for. And that was just a minor. One thing I wanted to highlight was I published a clerk fix, and I think Asher's here, so thank you for all your help with this. If anyone else is using clerk here, you should use this decoder. There's a new decoder from the auth clerk API package that is not subject to rate limiting. So the old one is using an API. It's like called get user or something like that from Clerk's Node.js SDK. And that one, they will rate limit you on. And you don't, this was just like an implementation thing at the time, moving fast and just trying to shipping what worked. So we circled back with the Clerk team and asked like, how do you want us to do this? Like at the time we saw a function that gave us what we wanted. And they recommended us to just customize the JWT instead. So that turned out to be super simple, like simplified the code internally and should make the functions in your project also simpler, but it means you have to go to the clerk dashboard and set the tokens, like the properties or the claims you want on the token, but they have documentation on that, and they make it really easy with like an interactive editor. So that should be it should be fairly straightforward, but I do want to call it out. Yeah, do that if you can. Release notes have upgrade guide here. So that rounds out the stable. Now I just made this listed. So I've been working on this upgrade guide with the help of like the core team for a while, and we're finally ready to release like the first V6 RC. Well, this will go through the RC process just like any other major and some minors we've had. So this one's awesome. It's got Vite, Storybook V7, and a couple internal refactors to Redwood's router to suspense, which will enable streaming and React server components later down the line, like Tom was saying earlier. So for those of you who are opting into experimental Vite support, it's now no longer experimental in this V6 RC. It's the way we want to move in the framework. Vite is our bundler now, not Webpack. So Webpack is still supported, but we see the future directions we're going as using Vite, and we think you'll like it too, given the insanely fast startup time. It feels, with Vite, your code is like treated as ESM. It feels like modern, like you're leaving behind kind of like some of the common JS like bugs and quirks that can just make JavaScript feel a little bit like crusty. So it feels good to finally like be using a modern build tool, and all the completely configurable. We think we've made the config better this time. Like the Webpack config is kind of hidden, and you can configure it, but it's not out in front. But the Vite config here is like there for you to add anything you want to it, and Redwood's just a plugin. So just using the standard APIs. But yeah, like please check out this upgrade guide. It walks through everything you need to do to get like Vite set up. And then if you're a Storybook user, there's V7, which was a major release for them, and really not that many breaking changes at all there. For the power users of Storybook, like depending on the plugins you're using, like the ecosystem may need some time to catch up. So just be warned of that. But last thing I want to call out here is like, even if you are using Webpack, and you don't have to move off it like right now, it's supported in this V6, like you can upgrade without switching to Vite. We still recommend going through some of these changes here, because some of them do apply to Webpack, especially in terms of SVGs down here. Some of these changes like you'll have to make, so I'd at least go through this first section. But as always, like please leave feedback. I know it's a little long, so once you get to the end and you find out something doesn't work or something could be written better, like drop a comment and it'll be updated, and we'll keep rolling out RC releases and updating it as we go and find things. That just rounds about like the last couple releases we had.
Dom, hang on for just a second. Does anyone have any questions about releases before we let Dom sign off? Dom, by the way, thank you. You're champion, hero status. Questions for Dom? Kevin, this will be good to have. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, David, but no, it does not. So like Vite does not. We have not configured Vite and Storybook together in V6. If you use Storybook, it'll be used with Webpack. So depending on like how much you configure Vite, you may see if you're really configuring Vite, like and using something Webpack doesn't have, like you'll start to see like something not be reflected in your stories. But if you're just using the default configs, like you may not notice at all. But that's something we're gonna add during this minor or during the V6 RC, and if we don't get to it during the RC, the minor. But is that what you had in mind, David? Or I can't remember if I got that one right.
Yeah, we'll pick up. Yeah, yeah, exactly. We want to get, maybe top level is everything is moving toward Vite very slowly, because we don't want to leave anybody behind. So that's where we'll end up. There's compatibility right now that we know of, baseline But if you find something that's incompatible, let us know, because that's what we need to know now before we can make the full transition. We're really optimistic. Maybe, we need Danny or Toby here. Why Vite is a great question. And we'll provide some more answers around that when the release gets stable, but effectively for performance reasons, and also it's modern and it's where the ecosystem is headed. So those are great things. So we want to head there too. We just don't want to make it. These are all the things that we wish we didn't have to talk about, right? Like this is why Redwood exists. We didn't want to get up here and talk about Webpack and Vite for everybody because it shouldn't matter, but it does. So we'll go slow, and we don't want this to be an extra pain point for anybody. Is that helpful, Dom? Anything else to add there? Amy, do you like talking about Webpack and Vite and build tools? No? Oh, you have no microphone. No, that can't be true. I was like, why is Amy being so quiet today? All right, you should be able to unmute yourself.
There we go. I gave you control and then I lost all control. Yeah, the next iteration is going to be awesome. Dom has been a champ in helping me get some of the Storybook CSF3 stuff up, which is exciting. They've made some DX improvements from a story standpoint. So yeah, it'll be good all around.
Yeah. What could go wrong? It'll be great.
We don't answer that question.
It'll be great. The reality is we don't know, but I think that's what's so fun about this project is it's a tight community and we figured out and fixed it really quickly. I think it's for a project of this size of a team running it, like the fact that Dom turns around patches and we diagnose, get them out. Dom's able to turn around the patches in, 24 hours. We hope that conveys what it's intended to, which is you can trust this platform, and we want to make it work for you. We care about your end users as much as we do you. So that's what we know. All right, I'm on 4 tangents now. Amy, we can go over a little bit, but did you have a couple things you want to highlight before we switch over to the breakout rooms, Dom?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you.
So I wanted to highlight some of the events that we've been having. So we had a showcase event, and all of that content is available on YouTube now. You can go to the playlist, and there's about 22 different startups that showcased the work that they've been doing. So it's just amazing, mind-blowing, really, to see the breadth and depth of the applications that people are building on top of Redwood.js. So I'd encourage you to go check those out. And the playlist makes it nice because you can kind of jump around and see different applications that people have built.
I'll get that link now.
Yeah, perfect. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is that we have been doing a partner pitch event. We had our first one last week where we had 5 different companies come on and kind of pitch their product and their services and the offerings that they have. So we had, oh goodness, I hope I don't miss one. We had Stripe, Confluence, Flight Control, the Guild. They featured the GraphQL Hive, and then we had Stripe. I think I got everybody, but it's just a great. Oh, Coherence. I said the wrong.
That's right. That's right.
My apologies. So, but the beautiful thing about that is that, as David was saying, we do have a tight community and we have great relationships with all of these different services. And so the event was a great way to see how you can integrate your application with the things that they provide. So we will also have another partner pitch event this month and next month. So be sure to check those out and RSVP. We would love for you to join us live.
Those were good. I didn't get to all the links. I'll get some of those up here too. But for the playlist. And before we switch here, we have a couple questions. And we're going to go into some breakout groups here in a second in the thing. But are there things Raj has a question? Great question. And can invite some other people back up here. But are there things that current Redwood developers, users should be doing to get ready for React server components? I think the really short answer on that is no. but there's some things you could do to participate in the development of it. And one, there's PRs that are open you could follow along with. We welcome questions. People have been engaging on the forums and community right now to give us, ideas, concerns, feedback along the way. We're paying attention to all of that. But really, Raj, there's nothing to do right now. Toby, Danny, if you guys, I think Toby's here. If you have any suggestions, Raj, you could follow, anyone could follow our Canary releases. So that's our main development branch. The challenge with that is the stability varies. But if you really want to try out the latest, if you want to try things out, the latest and greatest, that's where it's happening. It's just not documented well. It's moving really fast. And but that's where all the action is. So okay, one more question on the roadmap. What is fully exposed config and figured out cover? Let me give you an example of that, Kevin. We want Redwood to be tightly integrated, but not tightly coupled. And to do that, we've hidden away a lot of the config inside of Redwood packages so that you as a project codebase owner don't have to manage that config yourself directly. And what happened along the way is some of that config got harder to extend or maybe eject if you needed to. And we've been exposing more of that. An example is people wanted to do more when they were using serverful Fastify, and they couldn't get to all the Fastify config that they needed to. So there's a project right now where that's all being exposed. There will be, if you need it, a new Fastify config file that has all the config you need. It'll be exposed, and then you can override it or extend it as necessary. So that goes for Babel. That's been there for Webpack, but people have had challenges specifically when they really get in the nitty-gritty on testing and want to extend Jest, for example. That's been harder. Even Storybook, for example, has been kind of challenging. So that's what we're trying to do. I hope that answers your question. Any other thoughts, Amy?
Yeah,
a lot of words.
I don't mean to toot my own horn, but
you should. No, go ahead.
This past month, so I've been a huge fan of Redwood for a long time, but this past month I had my first open PRs, and just a huge shout out to Dom and the PR review. But I just want to say, for anybody that's curious about the roadmap or wanting to contribute, that you should definitely jump in, that it is a great learning experience and a very open and welcoming community for those things. So just encourage anybody that's interested. There is a doc within the Redwood JS site for contributing that has some great instructions and a great guide to getting started and places where you can look, where different entry points.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's switch over to our breakout groups. Thank you all. We'll do this again next month. I don't think we got up a link to the partner pitches event. The next one's coming up on July 27th. You can find that there'll be a live stream that'll show up on our YouTube channel. Do we like and subscribe now? There's a bell or something, or I don't know. Do the thing where you follow things on YouTube. We have videos and stuff. It'll be great.
Smash stuff.
I believe so. Luma is what we use for registration. Luma, lu.ma/redwood-talks. That's the one. So you can register for the event series there. I think that's it. Okay, thanks everyone. I'm going to stop the live stream. Everyone will have powers to do whatever they want inside of Zoom. Oh, by the way, we do a webinar version of this and a live stream version of this. In the future, if you want to join us for the breakout groups, register on Luma so you can join the Zoom webinar for the breakout groups. But live stream is great on YouTube. We watch that as well. And yeah, I'm going to stop it all, and then we'll do some breakout groups. Please.